Good evening, everybody. It's 6:30 p.m. Tonight is Tuesday, September 4th, 2018. It's a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board, and please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Microphones are all on, too? Forgot mine right there. Roll call, Randy, please.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes, here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Trustee Everson.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard, Township Legal Counsel Roger Zappa, Planner Jason McCarthy, Fire Chief Dan Shanahan, and Assistant Chief Rob Cochran.
Thanks, Randy. Any public comment? Anybody wish to address the board before we get going? No? Okay. We won't have board member comment and response. Then we will go through the consent agenda, which tonight includes approval of the regular meeting minutes of August 21st, bills payable in the amount of $90,180.73. We have a budget amendment tonight, so Randy will read that, number 2018-08. Committee and other reports received, road committee agenda for September 4th, and draft minutes for August 8th. Iron Ore Heritage Trail Recreation Authority draft agenda for August 22nd, and draft minutes of July 25th. Utility billing calendar for September. I had no report from me. Correspondence not requiring board action is the DEQ memo to SEMCO regarding Marquette Connector Pipeline Project for the gas line. State of Michigan notice of hearing for the customers of UPCO case number U-20175, and the treasurer's report for financials for July. Anything need to be pulled out, gentlemen?
Move for adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call when Randy reads the,
Okay, highlights of the budget amendment 2018-08. It's in the packet. Authorization is requested to increase revenues and expenditures in the wastewater fund to account for activities in the State of Michigan Asset Management Grant. Also requested is an increase in the water fund, water pumping station, well department, as well as overtime is more than projected due to a well emergency repair earlier in the year. Also, tools and equipment supplies are higher than budget originally estimated. The offset will come from contingency. Trustee Marks.
roll call.
Yeah, but
This is the,
was I present?
No, roll call for the, because if there's a budget amendment, we'll do a roll call for the.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Then I just need approval of the rest of the agenda. I would like to add, schedule a work session for Policy Governance 4.0. All we have to do is schedule the meeting. So we could put that under 9 and make it 9C. So to schedule work session, Policy Governance 4.0. So if anybody would.
I'll move to accept the agenda as amended.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up is Board Education Privilege Comment. We have the Fire Department. When we did the agenda, the Secretary kind of forgot the Fire Department part, but it should say Fire Department Badge Pinning Ceremony. We did approve the appointment of our fire chief, Dan Shanahan, and he has made a choice for assistant chief. So we're going to kind of make it formal, and we will actually pin Dan, and then whoever wants to pin Rob, it's up to Dan, but his wife could do it, whatever works.
Will she be careful if she does that?
We do a paramedic available.
That's why we certify him with all the
Yeah,
medical
EMT.
first.
The ambulance is close by.
I don't have a speech, I don't have anything
I don't yet.
prepared. I just
I've
wanted to.
been sworn in.
Yes, you are
Yes.
official, but now.
So,
you're-
yes, and I do that, thank you to the board and to the manager. You know, you're gonna need some patience with me for a little while, but, we'll do fine. There's some changes coming, you know, hopefully, and we'll work hard, but I guess thank you. And Rob's gonna be a big help. You know, I'm sure you know everybody, we'll introduce in a minute, but, like I said, I've been sworn in.
I know, I caught you off guard.
You did,
This is
you
okay.
did. I was, yes, you
It's
did,
okay.
yes.
See if I can do this without.
Okay,
Let me
yeah.
Put on my glasses.
All right.
There's a little spot to put it in here, which is kind of neat.
73 here, Rob, so we can take care of the blood?
White shirt on top.
There.
Oh, wait, the one, yes, we have one just for tonight. Well, thank you. And as everybody knows, Rob was appointed the assistant chief, I guess a month ago, and I'm sure you all know him. Rob, do you want to say anything? Like, you know, tell Rhonda, thank you very much, you know?
Well, obviously, because of my family.
Right.
Just as well as yours.
Same here,
They
yeah,
suffer
my
every time
wife
we go out.
and daughter are here, Kelly and Brianna, Rhonda and Brad. Yeah, I didn't know if Rob wanted to say or not in here, but it is, it's a family, it's a family thing. And the department's a family thing too, so. Rob, you got anything else that you'd like to add?
Hope to serve the community well.
Yep, I think we will. We'll work hard. We will. Are you ready?
Go for it.
All right. I don't know, this is a first for me, so.
Why are you looking away?
Yeah.
Second blood.
All right, thank you. Thanks again.
Thanks, Rob.
Congratulations. Both.
We have to do those fun things once in a while, you know? Plus, the public needs to know who they're going to be calling. Thanks, folks, for coming, too. It was nice meeting you. All right, number 7 is community linkage. Unless anybody has something to share, we can go on to 8A. And Jason's here to talk to us about it.
Moving right along.
Consider Schwemmwood Park Connector Trail request. Do you
I
have,
can give just a quick lead-in, basically, since I asked that Jason put it on the agenda. And basically, all that this is about is there's a proposal that's been brought up at the Recreation Committee level, but the one point that hasn't been asked is, does the board wish to have a trail across Schwemmwood Park, a bike trail? That has not come to the board previously, so I suggested, since you're the property owner, the board should at least be asked if they wish to have a single-track trail across Schwemmwood or not, and that's the reason it's here.
Jason?
Okay. I don't know what more we need to add to that. You know, this is an existing trail that leaves north off of Ironwood Heritage Trail, goes around Lost Creek, and essentially terminates right at their driveway. This is the balance of Schwemmwood Park here. There is a number of trails in that area. We have our parking lot here, and we've created a trail up to the grade on the southern part of the park to act as a trailhead for that. So in staff's opinion, in staff's mind, we're trying to expand opportunities for the public to enter the business commercial area, as well as continue to connect our non-motorized trail assets. This is the, not Bishop Woods, but north and east of that. And this is a 35-acre parcel that I believe is being sold or marketed. We were able to secure an access easement for recreation from that property owner prior to the sale of the property, or it being marketed, and that will connect up to the trailhead now. It's basically part of the gas line easement, and as long as we stay on the right 10 feet of that, then we're able to use that as another access. So there's a connection there. And of course, we have a pathway heading to the tunnel. And in 2019, remember we talked about the tunnel actually being, the tunnel pathway terminating at the Target Walmart intersection, US 41 and County Road 492. But they were able to find some extra money, and that's actually going to go all the way over to Wright Street. And so now we have only Wright Street to Venture to connect to that existing safe routes to school. So a lot of times these things are seen as, you know, trails to nowhere or tunnels to nowhere. But after you start to get a couple connections made, you can see that, you know, it does start to mix with the business community as well as the trail network, which is a goal in our rec plan, et cetera. And this would be looking north and west. So here we were. Here's the trail connecting from the Underheritage Trail to the tunnel area. And of course, you have that easement that we've been able to acquire from Riverside and from Mr. Otavero and from Up the Sky to continue to work on that trail connection up to Big Bay. And keep the trail connection, but continue to enhance it. And there has been, you know, some discussion with some property turnover up in that area. So it's important to try and secure these easements and greenways now. So this trail, and Randy prefaced it as a single track trail, it is, but it's a 27-inch wide trail that's non-exclusive. So it's designed for hikers and bikers. It would be designed with no jumps or tricks. It was just a connector trail, simply. NTN committed to assuming the cost of the trail itself, which is about a half mile, and it would connect to the underpass eventually. We are also listed under the additional insured entity under the NTN's general liability insurance policy. So that was a big step there. And NTN has agreed to assume regular maintenance, clearing of leaves, trees, and they also offered to rebuild or stabilize our pedestrian bridge, which is in the park now and falling down. A couple other things I wanted to point out about, I guess, Schwimwood Park. It's not the most utilized park that we have. And as a result of that, there are activities that take place there that are less than desirable. Borderline criminal, probably. And so the more users you have in the park and more people utilizing it, I think the more or less you'll have that kind of activity occurring. And that was a comment that Mike Burnett made, who I thought would be here tonight, but he's not, and that's fine. But he's been building trails in the area for about 30 years, and they have, you know, categorized socioeconomic things like that. In their experience of having other areas such as the end of Pioneer Road where the old dump was, prior to people utilizing that area in a big way, which they do now for hiking and walking dogs and biking, they did have a lot of problems in the city too at that area. But those things have been quelled by having people utilizing parks and trails. So it's in my opinion, it's a minor request. But typically, this park has been considered to be a passive park, which a trail is passive in my opinion. It would follow the northern border of the park itself, so it really wouldn't intermingle with the walking trails other than crossing it a couple times as far as any kind of conflict or anything like that is of users. But you're going to have trail conflict, unfortunately, you know, most of the time, because you're going to have people that are accustomed to walking or people that are accustomed to biking and then running into each other on the trail. but we feel that education goes a long way, and if we can just get some more education out there, people would realize that the pedestrian has the right-of-way always. So that's basically my spiel from our end, but we see it as an opportunity to, further our non-motorized transportation system, add some connectivity to what will be the new tunnel and a major connector. And we have the work being done for us and the maintenance being provided by NTN. It's just a matter of whether you think that that is conducive for that area.
Right, and I do believe that the Recreation Committee supports the request, the proposal, and I simply wanted to get it to the board here for the property owner basically to say yes or no at this point.
Questions for Jason? Ernie?
Question, really, I just have a comment. It says non-motorized use, so which means you're talking about people walking it or running it, and then on bicycles or that. There's always a conflict on something like that, as it gets used more and more. Is there a way that we can put some signs saying that walkers have priority on the trail at the beginning and the ending?
Thanks for asking that question, because NTN, as you know, has their own kind of branding and signage, and they did inquire about having that just on the trail itself. But as a property owner, yes, we have the ability to educate and provide signs right at that trailhead. A nice little sign, and that's a great idea, and something that I should have written in my notes. I did think it, but didn't write it in my notes. Yes, we can add anything, any kind of verbiage you want, and I'd be happy to provide that for the residents and visitors.
Dan, did you have something?
I think it's a great idea. I concur with what your wishes are on this. I did have one question, and when I read through this earlier, was 27 inches. I mean, people's shoulders are that wide,
Yeah, it's a good question.
that's a little bit, I thought a little bit tight.
Okay.
I mean, I can see where that's gonna deter bicyclists from going through there, but we don't wanna make it so tight that you can't walk it either.
This is probably 27 inches, real close to it. Biggest rainbow I ever caught was about that big, so. Well, you could request that, yes, we approve the trail usage, but we'd like you to make it a little bit wider, and if they're willing to do that.
Would that cost anything different, or?
It probably would up their cost, but I believe, I don't want to speak for them, but I believe that they would prefer to have the connection. Yeah.
I don't know what everybody else's feelings are on that. I thought 27 inches was a little narrow. I thought it was a typo at first, but
Well, actually, I think that might be intentional to keep things like four-wheelers off the trail.
I can see that.
That's true. And they also try to minimize, one thing I failed to mention is that they'll build this trail with International Mountain Biking Association standards in mind. So the trails that they're building nowadays, they don't retain water. They're built properly on the slope, so they shed water. They don't take down a lot of trees. I think anything over 4 inches, they kind of leave alone and they'll work around it. So this routing has been GPSed, so this is fairly accurate. But we didn't want to bring, I guess, the whole boatload of information to you until we got the green light to maybe move forward, and then we can provide you with some greater detail. But yes, I mean, the width was kind of a concern of mine too. But I think just getting the concept down perhaps could lead that conversation in the direction of, making some amendments to their, to their wish.
Dave?
This was presented at the Recreation Committee, I think it's 2 weeks ago. And while it was discussed there wasn't any recommendation that actually come out of the Recreation Committee because it needed to go to the board first. But I think it's a good fit for what goes on in the park and for the area, and I think we shouldn't start, I mean, they've been building these things for 30 years, and it's set to the standards of the Biking Association. I think we should, rather than overthink it, we should let them build it according to those same standards that they use every place else. And I know he said at the meeting that it's the cost to put that in is something around the $22,000 mark, which they're willing to invest that to put it in. My biggest concern at the meeting was 2 years ago, they approached us about this, and it was an exclusivity issue. They wanted to put it in and have it for the exclusive use of the bikers, and that's why it was not recommended before. This year, that he understands where we're coming from, and it's not exclusive. The only thing is any non-motorized, so pedestrians or whomever can use it, and I think that fits in with what the park is for. I think the fact that it connects to the existing trail on the other side of 492 and connects that all the way through, it just adds to the use of the park. And I think Jason makes a good point when he's talking about the activities that go on back on the property line border of that park that we just soon not see go on. And then the plus we're going to pick up there is that they're proposing that they do the maintenance on it and that they would fix that walking bridge. I don't know how many of you guys been back there in that walking bridge, but it's about 35, 40 feet across. That is starting to sink into the wetlands, and they were going to pick it up and recondition it when they went through. And I think there's a point to be made about the education of the users, and it's not just the education for the bikers, it's the education for the pedestrians. And it could be covered by signs in the front and the back of that. And the education has to start someplace. You can't just assume that everybody's going to work and play together because you always got the loose cannon running around that needs to be reined in, but that's taken care of with the education. And until you get a collaborative effort between NTN and the township, that education doesn't start. It's always headbutting. I think it's a good fit, and I would support that depending on legal's look at the agreement, there has to be an agreement, I'm assuming, with NTN. True?
Yes, yeah.
And I would think legal would have to take a look at that and give us a thumbs up on it, that there's no catches there that we ought to be concerned about, but I think the general concept's a good concept, and I think we ought to move forward with it.
John?
While the people involved are going to be considering the signage that will help, what about people who are walking their dogs on leashes and things like that? Is that going to be a consideration on the signage as well?
Sure, yeah. The state requires that dogs remain in positive control, which
On a leash?
by law is on a leash, yeah.
But the leash and the bikers, I'm interested how you're going to handle the signage.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll bring some signage back for you to
Sure, I just think it's
thumb
a
up or something.
consideration that
Thank you.
needs to be made.
Yeah.
Because if you put a trail in like that, through that area, you're going to have people walking their animals. So I just suggest that you give some thought to, if you're going to put signs up, including a comment for that.
Pete?
Jason, have you did any thinking about going west? So you're going east there, to go west?
This way?
Yeah, the park, up right on the highway. You got it going down to Wright Street. Did you ever
Yes,
discuss
eventually,
any-
yeah, it would be my goal in subsequent years to apply for another TAP grant, because the roundabouts will both have non-motorized pathway extensions coming off of them in both directions, and they offer that with, the township in mind in the future applying for grants to connect them. So, and it wasn't, an extreme amount of money to connect the two roundabouts together. I think it was around $200,000.
Anytime we can connect the bicycling and the business thing, I think it's a plus for everybody. And I think it's a good plan. I think we should go forward with it.
Thank you. I'd just like to commend NTN. They also, over at the Vandenboom School, they put in the V-Boom pump track, which even my age group, and I assume yours, is kind of a thing to see, but it's essentially an endless BMX track for kids to learn skills on. And the idea is that eventually, if you get good enough, your gravity and your ability to transfer your weight on your bicycle will carry you around that forever. Of course, you get tired, and then you get off, and you let another kid go on. But that was about a $25,000 project that they installed over there too on their own. You know, they like to put more. I think having these relationships and having them blossom right now in big ways, whether it be NTN and the private sector, Marquette Township and NTN, or NTN and the school district, those are all very favorable things to have, and partnerships that you hope, you know, to keep nurturing so that in the future, you know, you can bounce projects off of each other and perhaps get some things done at a lower cost because you do have those partnerships.
Dan?
Just one other question. Is there access, or do you plan on any access to that trail from the parking lot at the park at all? If people wanted to, you know, possibly have their bikes on their vehicle or in their vehicle someplace to park and then use the trail and come back to it?
Great question. Yes, we did discuss that. And there's a trail there now, but it needs to be improved. And there's a little bit of a wet area that we would need to not mitigate, but address. But yes, that would be another goal in the future, is to connect the parking lot to that trail. And it would effectively, in a different direction perhaps, like this way. So they could connect this way for sure. To the north would be a little bit tricky just because of that low area. But yes, I mean, the connectivity will be there immediately. It might not be enhanced to the best, but we'll work with NTN and see if we can get that done. Good question.
Go ahead, Dave.
I think it's worth mentioning that that track over at Vandenboom is opened up to the public, and there's a no-charge use for that. They actually have people over there showing them how to do it. And I think that's some steps that NTN has taken that just shows they're headed in the right direction. If you remember dealing with NTN a couple years ago, it was a pretty exclusive group, and they pretty much opened that up to all comers now.
Pete?
You know, we can help ourselves on the Schwimmen Park. If you're going by, just swing in there. You know, go down in the parking lot and make a swing. I've been in there several times. If I'm that way, I'll make a point to go in there. And if somebody's in there, I don't know why, but you know, they seem to go right away. So
It's true. Yeah, yeah. My
so
wife
if you're
and I will
going by,
ride bikes
just
through
take a swing
there.
in there, and you know, it sort of helps things move along there.
And it's something we could talk about in the future, but I think any additional passive uses that we can utilize there, whether it be disc golf or other things to get people there, it will, you know, we had people that were squatting on the property. You guys put together an emergency ordinance on that. You know, so it does get rid of a lot of those situations, just having more people utilize that area. I thank you for your support.
Dave?
I would make a motion that we authorize staff to proceed with the planning of the trail and pending legal review.
Second.
That would include legal.
Yeah, as I said, legal review.
I'm probably the only one then that has some reservations about this. It has been a couple years since some of the NTN folks have had issues on some of their trails, and I haven't heard of any lately. But I've walked that park a lot, and I've worked on it a lot, and I understand the idea of having more people in there to keep some of the, my grandma would say, riffraff out. But I guess I always thought that would be a different kind of a park. It's obviously not going to be a walking trail if it's 27 inches. A lot of the riders, in my experience, and I'm not trying to make anybody mad, they want those trails for themselves. And I don't think anybody's going to be able to walk on those trails. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I didn't like it when I first saw it, but it becomes a bike trail, a bike park. It takes over the park. It's pretty much the majority of the park. For the people who want to go back and have a quiet walk or take pictures or sit at the park bench, they got little kids or their dogs, and they, now there might have a bike zipping by them. I don't know. It's just my thoughts. John?
Can't that concern be addressed in the legal agreement that's made that should the proposed use fail to exist, that there's some reversion?
You can put whatever you want in a contract, I suppose.
Well, but I'm just saying that I think it's a legitimate concern, but I think it can be addressed in the agreement with the people involved.
You're going to have multiple people from multiple states using those trails if they're bike trails. We know we have dedicated trails
Yep.
throughout the county. And I understand the connection part. I agree with the connecting. I think it's a good idea. The Heritage Trail's right there. Why can't they use the Heritage Trail? I don't know why it has to go right smack through our park. I just see it as being very disruptive. And it's nothing against them, it's just the idea. I don't like the idea of it. Just my views. Obviously, you don't agree. Dan?
I mean, I would like to see what Jason was saying is more people using it, whether they're using it for bicycles or whether they're using it for walking. If it's 27 inches wide, I can't really foresee a lot of people using it as a bike trail. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not a mountain biker, so I don't really know. I know they like to zigzag in and out of tight spaces, but that doesn't give them a whole lot of area with branches and stuff that are coming in. So I really think it's gonna be utilized more for a walking trail, and just the fact that it's gonna be used, and to keep some of these other people out of there. Like Pete had said, you just, by driving in, if somebody's sitting in a car doing something they're probably not supposed to be doing, they'd leave. So if they see your presence in there, the same thing's gonna happen. Or if you see something that's happening, you just get a hold of the authorities and let them handle it.
Dave?
I guess a couple of your points is, one is it's really not through the center of the park. It moves along the northern edge of the park. And that's why I made the motion to have staff continue with the planning and draw up an agreement so that we can get a look at it and make a final. We got another time at this, so to take a look at the proposal, what NTN is proposing, and make sure that there's some maintenance in there, and make sure there's some signage requirements in there, and who maintains the signage and all that. We get another look at it, so it can't hurt a thing to have them continue with the planning. And I don't think staff here is doing a lot of the work. NTN's doing most of the work on that, right? As far as the planning, they're just presenting you with their ideas?
Yeah, we're facilitating the project as it would for, any other property owner, except we're the property owner.
Yeah.
So obviously, we have a chance to actually set a standard here for future trail development too.
Yeah, and I just think we have a chance to do something a little productive here instead of always butting heads with NTN on the bikes. And one thing that he mentioned when he made the presentation at the rec committee is it's not a mountain bike course, it's a connector trail to get from Lost Creek over to the underpass, and it's not set, it's not their plans to develop it to competition standards. It's a connector trail, and that's why they defined it that way. So, and I think it'd be interesting to see what they come up with. You remember, this was here a couple years ago, and it was turned down because of the exclusivity requirement. So it'd just be interesting to see what they come up with, and you never know, it could be an idea or a means by which you can start working together with another organization to start developing something that actually benefits both of us.
Pete?
I know, I think a couple of years ago, we had a problem on our well road. And I think, and they said they've been talking to their bikers about, courtesy on the trail and stuff like that. And so I haven't heard any, recently in the last couple of years, about problems with that.
Yeah, they constructed a trail on the east side
Right.
and got the traffic, the bicycle traffic, off of the Well Road.
Anything else for Jason? Okay. All in favor? Do we want to read the motion again, or does everybody know?
The motion is to authorize staff to move forward with the planning and legal review of the project.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
See what you got.
There, Jason. Jason.
No, you missed the pinning. But I'm glad you heard that. All right, 9A Board Committee updates. Anything, Mr. Dave or Mr. Pete?
From the September 4th, today is September 4th, from the August 29th Planning Commission meeting, there was a site plan review for a 5,298 square foot northern orthotics and prosthetics building. It's located across the corner from this office, and it's at 1015 Commerce Drive, and that site plan review was approved with the normal list of conditions. I'm sure we went over that last time. If anybody's got a question on what conditions there are, I can tell you what they are, but it's a long list. Then there was two public hearings approved. One is actually a rehearing for the property located at 2352 and 2362 Werner Street, because one of the neighbors that required notification was missed. So we're going to have a new public hearing on that on September the 10th. It has to do with the short-term rental request, and there's another public hearing that has been approved for September the 10th concerning the Old Carpet Specialist Building to allow the opening of a Halloween superstore. The applicant on that is Gail Lessard, and the property is located at 875 Brookton Road. And the public hearing is required, if you may recall, because it's a retail operation adjacent to rural residential property. And the regularly scheduled meeting planned for the Planning Commission on September 12th has been reestablished over at the Planning Commission training seminar that's going to take place in Marquette City on that same date. So the Planning Commission is all going to be over there taking part in that seminar from 6 to 9 on the 12th, and which explains why the meeting is going to be on September the 10th. Because we had to pull a special meeting to get those two special or public hearings done. Other than that, the Recreation Committee, there was a considerable discussion at the meeting 2 weeks ago about the Lions Field Ice Rink. And as you may recall, the Planning Commission requested recommendations from the Rec Committee with respect to better utilization. A consensus was reached, and a draft recommendation will be considered at the September 18th Rec Committee meeting. The committee recommendation should be presented to the Planning Commission for consideration at their September 26th meeting. And we're still working on a draft on the Rec Committee for the trail and road safety procedures. We had a draft that we looked at on the last meeting, made a couple small edits on it, and that should be available at their at our September 18th meeting for a final approval and recommendation back to the Planning Commission so that legal can take a look at it. That was one of the comments from legal, is that they need to take a look at a hard copy of something so they can say what the liabilities were. And that would be it. The Road Committee meeting tonight had a lack of a quorum on it, so we didn't have a meeting.
Ernie, have you been to the Business Association lately? I don't remember seeing any. And Jason's already gone.
We're due to have one. That,
We'll have a joint one, so, but I didn't
Right.
know if you'd been going to the other ones.
I have, but it's been a month.
Okay. And we have no committee appointments, so I did add to schedule a work session for 4.0. I just wanted to read it so everybody would know. Global Governance Management Connection. Talks about the township manager. We already had his review. It covers accountability, unity of control, delegation to the township manager, and performance. And I thought it would be, it does talk about his contract. That's why I pushed this off until we were gonna be having his review. So I thought it'd be a good chance for all of us to just talk about the whole thing, the position, and do it all in a work session. So what works for anybody? Not this week. Who has conflicts next week? For maybe, I
November
suppose we
one.
should just figure 2 hours and we'll leave it open, Randy, but
When next week?
what's your work schedule, Randy, next week?
Anytime in the afternoon.
Okay. So do we like 1 to 3? Does that, or what are you, 2 to 4 then, or?
1 to 3 is fine.
What day are you talking about?
Next week sometime, do you have any
Next Tuesday you're talking,
preferences?
next Tuesday you're
Whatever,
talking?
whatever works for you guys. Tuesday, the 11th? Does that work?
End of the week?
And would be better?
End of the week is good for me.
Like Thursday?
13th?
Does that still work for you guys?
Yeah, 1 to 3 to work for me.
That sound good? Okay. 1 to 3, Thursday, September 13th, work session. Policy governance 4.0. Okay?
Someone's gonna make
Motion?
a motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it, let's go.
My wife has some projected doctor's appointments, and I don't know exactly when they're gonna be at this point. I have no idea.
Okay. Well, we can always change this or move it or cancel it or whatever, but at least if we have something on the books. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So Thursday, 9/13, from 1 to 3. Okay. Any public comment? We're down to that already. Any public comment?
Yo,
I'm Reggie Durant, representing the Cedar Motor Inn, 2523 US Highway 41 West. And I do want to make a couple comments. First off, I want to thank the board for the appointment of Dan as fire chief, and also his appointment as Ron as assistant chief. We are end users of their product, and every year we have a visit from Ron, giving us our inspection, and goes very well. And we've had to make changes, adjustments, and fix stuff, but that's good. And we've worked with Dan with an untimely death at our property a few years ago, and very professional, so I appreciate your decision. But I do want to comment on the Swemwood Park connector loop. You probably all know there is a connector loop behind the Holiday Inn that runs all the way out to the South Trails. It's a nice trail. It's not easy, and that's why they want them 27 inches. We don't have the picture up of the design of what they're recommending for this, but I think it's a good thing. The supervisor mentioned, why don't they use the Heritage Trail? Well, I mountain bike, I also road bike more than I mountain bike. The Heritage Trail is wonderful. I'm glad it's there, but it's kind of boring. It's not a lot of fun, but I can understand what they want to do. I think it would be great. I know that land because every year I assist with the cleanup of the Schwemmwood property, and I think it's a good thing. One thing I will say, in a business sense, with all the hotels down my way, we could see possibly more people staying with us so they can connect through Schwemmwood Park and out, to the Nokaman and trails that are further north of us. I think that's a plus for our business. Because all of our hoteliers are being affected by short-term rentals. You know, a lot of the mountain bikers like to stay at the short-term rentals, get a group of 10 guys together in a 3-bedroom house and stay there for a couple weeks. This might encourage, having this connector loop might encourage people to stay with us a little bit more. So it's a little self-serving on my part to say that, but I think it'd be all right for Swimwood Park. I mean, you're going to have to be careful that there's not going to be conflicts where the trail runs to the west and then comes back onto some of those walking trails that are there. There, you know, and we'll have to keep an eye on to make sure they don't decide to change the trail and add more loops, which I don't think would be too bad of a thing, because originally when the trails were put in, the group put in, or the Recreation Committee put in mulch on the trails, and that made it even more difficult to ride a mountain bike on that. So, but right now, as the plan shows, it does not come into the parking lot. It stays north of the parking lot and goes out. So, just want to let you know I support it. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, appreciate it. No other public, so we can move on to announcements. Randy?
I just had recently a resident call and asked when they could put political signs up. It's there's no steadfast rule, but it's 45 days before the election, so middle of September, and the signs have to come down 10 days after the election. Now, with it's really, the state's really not, it's a gray area on this in the state, and I did ask our planner to put it in, to address it in our sign ordinance, because we got political signs in our sign ordinance, and I would like that, and it will be coming to the Planning Commission sometime down the road to amend that text amendment, but just so we in our township have a rule that it's 45 days before the election. And I did, apparently legally, if it's reasonable and you're challenged on it, you're fine. So I think 45 days is reasonable.
How long can they leave them up?
10 days after the election, they have to be down.
There's a lot of signs up already.
Yeah, that's why I would like to clear this up in our sign ordinance. And it's going to be too late for this election cycle, but moving forward, we'll have a rule in place.
Dave?
There was some discussion at the last planning commission meeting, the 45 days and the 10 after. The big concern from the planning commission is if you're going to put it into an ordinance, you have to hold somebody accountable to take it down. And the question would be who. So the planning commission doesn't tend to take a look at it from an ordinance standpoint between now and the end of the year.
Any other announcements? I had a conversation with Mary Wardell from Sarah Cambenzi's office today, and there will be a bill. I'm not sure if it's introduced or not yet. I'll pass this out. It's just one sheet. She asked me what I thought of it, and I told her. And I said, you know, I'll be at the board meeting tonight. Let's ask the board what they think. I think I have enough for Randy too. So it just says the people of the state of Michigan enact Section 72C, the township board by vote of not less than 2 members may compel the attendance of board members and other officers of the township at a regular or special meeting and enforce orderly conduct in the meeting. A member of the board or any other officer of the township who refuses to attend a meeting or conduct himself or herself in an orderly manner is guilty of misconduct in office. So what prompted this, apparently by Representative Marino primarily, and she didn't know which township down south, somewhere below the bridge. Apparently there was a township board member who is in the process of being convicted of a felony. She didn't say if she knew what. He's either under indictment or they're doing arraignment or something. She wasn't real sure. But apparently the representative had started asking around to see what everybody thought about it, whether this was important. So in other words, primarily a board member who is not attending his meetings, his or her meetings, and that was the case. This particular board member has not attended any this year, I believe she said. And he's not participating in the meetings, he's not picking up his materials, he's not, I don't know what else he's not doing, but apparently that's frustrating some of the township people down there, so they have no recourse.
There are procedures in place
Take care of that.
for conduct of board members. I think they're trying to get the House of Representatives of the state of Michigan to address a problem that they refuse to check out their own accessible means of dealing with it. They can do it, the supervisor can do it, the supervisor's manager can help, and the board as a board can conduct sessions that discuss it. But to take it to the House of Representatives, that's crazy.
Well, it's geared just for this one individual, but she was trying to get an idea of how we thought this would impact our operation, you know.
If we had a
conducting
problem
business.
like that, Lynn, here, we as a board could clearly take care of it.
We can't remove anybody from the board.
No, but you could.
There's steps to do that, though.
Yes, that would involve the governor.
There's
Apparently,
procedures, though.
they're trying to get something to make it more policeable from the board or the township's perspective. And have the township be able to take care of it. Dave?
I hate to do it, but I have to agree with John.
I'm just here to pass this on.
It seems that we are asking, or the House is asking to pass a bill to solve a problem that somebody's got down there that is a specifically annoyance issue for them, and they're gonna have a knee-jerk reaction to it and pass something that the rest of the townships have to abide by. I guess I would think they have better things to do.
Be playing pickleball pretty soon.
Dan, did you have your hand up first? Okay. Randy?
Well, when we were at the township conference, Bill Fahey, which is an attorney downstate, had a session on just this very thing about how you go about dealing with board members that don't show up. And it doesn't take a law to do that. There is procedures to do that. It takes time, but it'll happen.
You bet.
Well, and the public can act too, but maybe they need to garner some support there, you know, if they wanted to do a recall or something.
There are requirements for someone to miss a meeting, that you must present proper notice and to the proper officers of the township. If he's not doing that, that's by itself this is a big deal. Dave and I are agreeing. This is not needed.
Let me get her on the phone.
Yeah.
Ernie?
You could be partners on pickleball.
I agree, there's standards already set up for boards to move forward to, if they have to remove someone that's not doing it. And they say, is guilty of misconduct in office. What does that mean? What are they gonna do? Okay, they're guilty of misconduct. Is that gonna be removed from the office or anything else? That means there's some statutes that are gonna have to be changed in that. So there's a lot of other things involved with this that I think it's overkill of trying to do something for one township downstate.
Apparently she said that and I don't know that Mary knew a lot of the details of it, but this is gonna hit tomorrow morning, so they were trying to get a consensus of as many as they could. And apparently, they've already reduced this man's wages, and I don't know how they could have done that.
Can't do that either.
Can't do
Yeah,
that.
it doesn't really make sense.
It's not legal.
No.
So,
What officers might they be talking about? Board members and officers?
I suppose, well, they're maybe considering the trustees, the board members, and then the officers, treasurer, you know, supervisor and clerk, would be my guess.
I think this is an attempt to have the state stand up and say that you can't do that and you must be removed, as opposed to having the other members of a particular board stand up and stick up for what's right and move through the process. They can do it themselves. They don't need the state to stand there and tell them they have
This
to.
was all there was that I was able to print when she gave me the number, but I took it that this would give the township more authority, not the state. I could be wrong. House Bill 5950. So I guess we'll see what happens tomorrow, how they address it.
Clearly,
Gonna talk about it.
the supervisor can get involved with someone who does not meet the requirements of being a committee member. That's a beginning. All of a sudden, the person's not longer on any committee. That's a beginning. But then it goes on from there, and I'm sure that we could find some way to deal with it properly, aside from bending to the state of Michigan for their involvement in township business. We're already a creature of the state, and you're introducing them to something that's not needed.
Okay, anything else? That's all I wanted to share. Thanks. I'll give her a call tomorrow. Any other announcements? Okay, managers report.
Brief tonight. We are back at regular hours after Labor Day, 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, so the summer hours have ceased. You all received, either electronically or in your mailboxes, a copy of the initial proposed budget. That was put together to comply with the requirement that within 120, not less than 120 days prior to the start of the next fiscal year, the supervisor distributes a balanced budget. There are a number of items that are still as yet not known that will have to be addressed during the budget work sessions, but the budget that you have before you is probably pretty close to what the final budget will look like through your budget work sessions. We do have a couple of fairly large ticket items that we will not know the status of until probably October. Health insurance being one, what's going to happen with health insurance. The calculation of retirement contribution occurs generally in October. So those items will have an impact on the budget and may have some things change within the budget, but overall the revenue and anticipated expenditures give you a good picture of where we likely will end up by the end of 2018. The other important item to raise is we're also at that time of the year where, we were talking earlier about conflicts. New conflicts are about to start. September 15th, small game season opens. October 1st, bow and arrow deer hunting season opens. And also within that same time frame, bear hunting season opens. So all of those activities will be taking place within Marquette Township, within the woods of Marquette Township, adjacent to the trails. And around the trails. So people need to be aware that those activities are occurring and need to dress appropriately. Certainly, high visibility is preferred and recommended. The other important aspect of it is we do not regulate hunting in the township. It falls under the DNR's recreational and hunting requirements, and basically it creates safety zones, and what a safety zone is defined as is all areas within 150 yards, 450 feet of an occupied building, house, cabin, or any barn or other building used in farm operations. No person, including archery and crossbow hunters, may hunt or discharge a firearm, crossbow, or bow in a safety zone, or shoot at any wild animal or wild bird within a safety zone, excuse me, without the permission of the owner or occupant of such safety zone. So safety zones are important. It's 450 feet from any occupied area, which includes a trail, which includes any of the structures that go along a trail. So season of care has sprung upon us here. So be cautious when you're in the woods.
Any questions for the manager?
I have one.
Sure, Pete.
Over on Commerce, I brought this up at the Planning Commission the other night, on Commerce and Brookton. It seems like we're having this problem. Wasn't there a time, I think Dave brought it up, that they're supposed to come back and paint stripes on that road. The people are coming down, you know, on Brookton, and they're blowing right by that intersection, that stop sign on Commerce. Now, there was a white van, then there was a dark brown van, a car. The car was coming on Commerce, stopped at at the stop sign, and he started proceeding. This other car come right down Brookton and just threw that stop sign. I brought it up a couple different times, and we're talking, like I say, I brought it up at the planning commission, but then Dave said something about, they're supposed to come back and paint it or something, I can't remember. Do you remember anything like that?
Don't recall.
There was an agreement when they put the road in, 492 in Commerce, that they didn't get the stop bars painted that fall, and they were gonna come back the next spring.
Not aware of that. I can
And
certainly follow up on
and do
that.
it, and we've complained about it a couple times, and they
Oh.
keep saying they're gonna do it, but
Yeah.
so far,
Just someone's gonna get hurt there just because of how fast they're coming down that road. I rode up and down and just seen, what are they looking, why can't they see, and stuff like that. You know, yes, it's on a slight curve and that, but either they're on their phone or they're not, and they just
Well, the
blow
sign,
right by.
yeah, the
something.
sign is clearly visible, but, you know,
Yeah,
the stop
it's
sign's
set back.
clearly visible, but, yeah, we certainly can follow up with that. The road commission reopens tomorrow. They're closed for the holidays
Right.
still.
I just thought if we bring it up to them
Sure.
again, maybe they'll look at it
Bring it
again
up.
and just to maybe save some accidents.
But the issue is not only at Brookton, because they're routinely running the red lights on Commerce and US 41 as
Right,
well.
exactly. Or left turns there also.
Yeah, so it's, you know, I think there's more to it than just the bar being painted. People are just generally not complying with the law through the corridor, whether it's speed, distracted driving, running red lights, running stop signs. It's becoming epidemic. And I have noticed the sheriff's been present more. I've seen more cars pulled over. And hopefully that enforcement will expand, because traffic is certainly expanding.
It's, with college being back now, it's, you know,
It just
I
seems
don't know how many,
like,
but usually it's about 8,000 more people back here.
it just seems like the congestion is getting more and more and more constantly. It's just traffic is heavy all the time now.
Anything, oh, yeah, Bernie?
Just one thing, and this is something we probably have to do some research on. Looking at all the checks we send out on that, and looking at the 2005 DBW Chevrolet truck, we seem to be seeing a lot of repairs coming in with some of those vehicles. And that maybe it's time to start doing some advanced planning to replace them. Because it's starting to eat into the budget when you start doing a lot of that.
Yeah, and a lot of them are relatively minor, just wear issues, basically, from, you know, the amount of miles that are put on them as well. I think the one you're referencing there was the plow truck, the dump truck, the 2005 Chevy. I think
It's
that's
a Chevrolet truck.
Yeah, I think that's our building and grounds dump truck. And we had to replace tires, and we had to replace batteries on things such as that get some pretty hefty use. But yeah, we have some aging vehicles, we do. And I think the most recent is probably about 4 years old now in the Public Works Department. Typically, we're buying used vehicles, and replacing with those. So, yes, and there is a schedule. In fact, you're going to see in the budget, we do have some replacement items for the 2019 budget built in there.
I just keep seeing
Beginning to
some-
replace, and over
coming up.
several years. Yeah. Oh yeah, we have a fairly sizable group of vehicles that get some pretty heavy use.
Anything else for the manager? Okay. Randy, review motions.
Okay, first motion was consent agenda that was approved with no changes. Second motion was to approve the regular agenda as amended. We added that policy governance item. Third motion was to authorize the staff to move forward with the planning and legal review of the connector, or the Shimwood Park Connector Trail request. That carried, and that'll be in the planning department. And the fourth motion was to schedule a work session for policy governance on Thursday, the 13th of September, 1 to 3. And I will post that tomorrow or the next day. That's it.
Thanks. Items for future agenda. When do you guys want to meet and do some work sessions on the budget? Do you want to wait till October till we have more definitive numbers on some stuff? Or do you want to try to do something this month?
I think we can schedule for October,
Start in October? Okay, maybe we'll put it on the agenda next time
schedule some work
to
sessions.
schedule some for October.
Yeah, I suspect we will have some of that information back. Some of the things we're waiting for are estimates, updates on numbers and things such as that from prior items that we've received. So you'll be getting periodic updates, and I'll send those out as they come up.
Okay, sounds good. Board member comment, anything? Anything want to share, Dave?
I just would like to point out that we have a work session on CIP request
Thursday.
day after tomorrow. I still have not seen any response to the questions submitted 2.5 months ago.
We're in the process of putting those together. Kirk is back in town tomorrow, so we'll be wrapping those up and getting them out to you.
They were working on him before he left. So will we have him before Thursday?
Yes.
Will we have him tomorrow sometime? So we
Yes,
can look
that's
at
the
it?
target.
Okay. We went through some of those questions to see the best way to answer them. So everybody will have to check your mail or boxes. How's he gonna do that? Do you know if he's gonna just email everything, or was there a
Both,
plan?
be email and hard.
Hard? Okay. Okay. Any other comments? Anything to share? Need a motion
I
then.
move to adjourn.
Support?
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? We are finished.
Just gotta take a
7:36.
first time.